I'm going to show you the easiest way to dig up and clean and divide your tubers. So first, with a pitchfork, you're going to want to shake it loose. I give it a bit of distance on each side and just wiggle that pitchfork until I feel like the clump will come up without breaking apart. Then I get as much dirt off of it as I can with my hands so that that soil, that precious soil, can stay in the garden bed. After that, I will use a hose and just spray off as much soil as I can. Again, you can see I'm over the top of a garden bed, trying to keep as much of the soil as I possibly can. Be sure to turn it over to get underneath and between the tubers as best as possible. So with massive clumps like this, you're just gonna want to find like the easiest piece you can possibly cut into, right? So this one right here is pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. You can see that's a head. Technically, that's going to be an eye. The trick is it's underneath this one. Do you see that? It's underneath this tuber, so I'm actually going to cut this one too. Ever so carefully. I will link these snips in the video because they're my favorite. They're slightly curved and very sharp and just like thin enough to get through there. For the parts that are just massive and require heavy duty, I always use these ones, my big Corona snips. So now that we got that free, we can take that out of there. You can see there are a lot of little pieces that aren't very thick. With those, I just cut them off. They're not going to be viable, generally, if it's not thicker than a pencil. Now you're just still going to look for a head that has eyes on it that is pretty easy to cut out. You might have to really jam your snips in there, and believe me, you're going to lose some tubers along the way. Don't pull up if the head is still stuck. You want to get underneath and maybe push up like I did there, but really you need a strong neck, and you can see here, right there is where the eye of the tuber is. That's where the plant will grow from. I snip the ends clean where the roots are from last year. Just snip that off, have a clean cut, and then it's ready for storage. Sometimes when you cut your tubers out, you'll notice that maybe two are stuck together and one has an eye, but you don't see an eye on the other. I will leave several tubers together just because I want to make sure there's an eye, and if I'm not sure, I won't divide them. This video is sped up, but dividing tubers takes a long time. That's why tubers are expensive. With massive clumps, eventually you're going to get to a point where there's not an easy tuber to grab. I will take my Corona snips and I hold the handle that's directly linked with the blade here so that it won't bend and slip out of my hand. I jam it in to where I think would be a good spot to divide, wiggle it around, and hopefully I can get something loose. Again, you're going to snap a few tuber necks, you're going to lose a few tubers along the way, but looking at this massive clump, I'm not worried about losing a few. Don't be afraid to get in there and get kind of violent. You have to get to where it's easier to divide. It's just impossible at a certain point to divide a huge clump. You need it in smaller pieces. Once I've got those clumps apart a little bit, I will re-wash them off because you'll find more mud inside there, and it makes it much more clear where to cut and divide. After I got these nice and rinsed, I noticed a broken neck. This is not a viable tuber. If the neck is broken, it's not going to grow. From there, just continue cleaning up, snipping the ends, cutting off any pieces that are too skinny. Here you can see a tuber that has some rot in it. If I think a tuber is rotten, what I will do is I will cut into it deeper, and if I see that it's still gross in there, see that discoloration, we know it's bad. So I will trash that tuber. As you are collecting tubers, remember to only divide one type at a time, otherwise you will have a mess on your hands and not know which tubers are which kind of plant. If you think one might be a little rotten, don't be afraid to cut into it to be sure. You can always cut the ends off a little bit more and see, this one looks okay, not great, so I will probably trash that. Here there's signs of chewing, something ate some of my tubers, those are garbage too. You're going to get some misshapen, weird-looking tuber clumps. And for things like this, I might just leave them together, or I might decide which ones I want to keep and snip off the rest. But it's no problem to keep some pieces together if you want to, or cut it down to just the best tuber of the bunch. Now they dry in a garage for a couple hours, and I will label them with a permanent marker. After you label, this is where most people mess up, so be sure to watch my next video about storing tubers so you don't lose all of your hard work.